if I lie to my parents, or if I lie, like what is the penalty for that? Well, the penalty for any sin is death. But Jesus came in and said, you know what? I don't want that for you. I'm going to take that on myself, and he died for you so that you don't have to go through that. You don't have to go through that. And I say oftentimes, when we get to heaven, you're going to be surprised by all the people you see there, like terrible people. That are like, this guy made it in? Because at the end of his life, maybe they gave their life to Jesus. And then you're going to be surprised by all the people you thought would make it. Because you're like, oh, that person, she was so great. She posted, Bible verses on her Instagram story, right? But then she didn't make it into heaven, right? It's how you surrender your life. Sorry, I went on a tangent. I forgot what the question was. All right, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
All right, sweet. All right, here's a good one. Here's a practical one. Best way to start a conversation about Jesus.
Okay, best way to start a conversation.
To start a conversation.
I wrote some stuff for this one. Okay, I think the best way to start conversations about Jesus, if you're looking to talk to your friend about Jesus, it really just means, I think, to meet them where they're at. Like, people want to know how Jesus is relevant to them in their life. If they don't follow Jesus, they want to know why Jesus is relevant to them. And so I think we're called to meet people where they're at in life. Whatever they might be struggling with, that we're called to meet them there. I worked as a server for all throughout college, and so it gave me a huge opportunity just to hear from so many of my coworkers, and so many times they would share with me like different things that they were struggling with, whether it was anxiety, whether it was their home life. And I just got the opportunity to share with them how Jesus helped me through my struggles. And so I met them where they were at, and I got to share Jesus with them. Maybe you have a friend who you've invited to church, and no matter how many times you invite them to come, they don't want to come to church with you. But you can still be Jesus to them. They still have you, and so they get to see Jesus through you, and how you're generous with your life, and how you love them, and what you share with them, and how you live your life. And so you can still be Jesus to them, be consistent with them, you can pray with them. It just requires sometimes us being bold, stepping out in faith to share with people. And then I think also praying for opportunities for conversation as well.
I talk about Chipotle a lot because I worked there for like a long time, like 6 or 7 years. When I worked there, I at some point, just to give you like, this is just a funny anecdote, I don't want to say this here, but like for one shift, and we all thought it was funny, I was the only like white straight guy there. The rest of them were all black lesbians that I worked with, okay? At the time, So I worked with like everyone, okay? And it was awesome, okay? The opportunities that I had to like talk to people and share who Jesus was with them was like amazing. It was super cool. And what I didn't like go up to them and be like, do you want to know about Jesus, I mean, maybe I did once, but oftentimes it was how I acted and what I said would lead to conversations. Like to be like, so you don't do this, or you're not gonna come, hang out with us and go drinking and do this. You're not gonna, and I was like, no, I'm good. And then be like, why do you do that? Or I'd be like, sorry, I have to go to church on this day. Or I would invite them to church. Like oftentimes it was like how I acted, how I talked, what I did that would lead and open up to like really good conversation. So I think if you're just like living your life in the way Jesus calls us to live, like that's just naturally going to pour out. People are going to be like, what do you do? Like why are you different? Like at the end of my time at Chipotle, my boss, my manager, I love her. She's my manager the whole time there. She told me thank you. She wrote me a card, and I worked there for so long. They gave me gifts and wrote me a card. And she was like, thank you for showing me and really showing me who Jesus is, and being the only person who really showed me what being a Christian is. And I still talk to her and text her and pray for her all the time. But it's how you act, how you act around. It's not like convincing someone. You're not winning an argument. It's really how you live. So how do you live? How are you representing Jesus to people? Because you can have an impact on someone's life just by doing it. That kind of leads to another good question. Someone wrote in and someone wrote in a couple weeks ago, is drinking alcohol a sin? And someone just wrote in, how does the Bible always say, be a sober mind, right? We know that's a verse in the Bible. Jesus says to be a sober mind. But Jesus drank wine.
Well, first of all, everyone here is underage, so.
I was gonna say, okay. The short answer to this, there's two answers.
Yeah.
The short answer is alcohol a sin? No. And then there's another short answer. If you are drinking alcohol and you're in this room, you are sinning. Yes, because you guys are all under 21, okay? Sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, you
Okay, I think when we think of alcohol, especially like where we live, like let's say like upper Michigan, Wisconsin, just like the Midwest in general, when you think of alcohol, like the alcohol abuse, like where we live is like kind of out of control. Like Wisconsin is known for being like crazy guys drinking beer all the time, being hammered, going to bars. Like that's just like the nature of like kind of the area we live in. And so when we think of alcohol in the context of the Bible, like drinking wine and drinking alcohol is not a sin. Like you're not sinning when you're doing that. What happens though is when it crosses the line and you lose that sober mindedness and you become drunk, then that's entered into your sinning in that moment. You're letting something have control over you. You're not dying to yourself. You're letting your body have control over you. And oftentimes when you're sinning in drunkenness, oftentimes that's going to lead. People use being drunk to lead to more sin, being like, oh, I was drunk, and so then they start doing things they shouldn't be doing. And for me in my life, I know in my past, and not in my past, but in my family's history, there has been alcohol abuse, people who just can't control it, and it's destroyed our family. And so because of that, like my dad was very like, I just don't drink. But because of that, I don't drink at all. Like I had half of Mike's Hard Lemonade once at a Chipotle picnic, okay guys? And then I stopped because I thought I was getting drunk. And I put it back, and then they all made fun of me. They're like, what?
You had self-control.
I was like, all right, this Mike's Hard Lemonade is too much. I only drank half of it.
Let's move on.
That's it for me. But
one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit is self-control.
Self-control, right.
And so, sure, Jesus drank wine as a cultural thing, but he didn't get drunk.
He wasn't partying with his friends, taking shots. You know, that's just not what he was doing. But even in our family, like I know like your family has had history of alcohol abuse, and because of that, when we were dating and preparing to get married, I had like one rule, and my rule was like, or I had multiple things like, this is kind of what I believe in. But I was like, I don't want alcohol in our house. So like we don't have like a wine cellar, casually having wine. There's no like beer in the fridge casually. Like I don't want any of it in my house or our house. And so I told Hannah that before we even like got married or anything like that. Like just so you know, this is like my conviction. And that's a personal thing. Like I know like there's some other, some of my family who are, love God, and I know they're great God-fearing people and love God and they casually drink, but I know they're not going to parties and getting drunk